Good evening, Cheese Room, and welcome to our Monday night preview or review show of the game on Saturday. Joining me tonight is the normal Monday night crew, Gibbo and Becky. Gibbo, how are you? How has your weekend been this time round?
Spurs won, mate. Weekend was good. Son played football twice this weekend. Scored the winner against Bristol City in the last minute for the older age group. Bagged 7 goals yesterday against Newport. So it's been a good weekend for football for us, mate.
Boom. And Becky, how about you? Worth the journey down this weekend?
Yeah, so we'd always planned to stay over this weekend. So and we had the extra added bonus of a snow day on Friday. So we never get snow here, and it was horrific. So school closed, and then which meant I could get everything sorted out and prepared, and then set off Saturday morning, and then stayed over. But yeah, all good. You know, I've said before, we try and be positive even when it's a defeat, but it massively helps when we win and all the right people scored.
What's your hotel of choice, Becky, when you're coming down?
Oh, anything cheap and cheerful. Me and Joe often share, stay together. But yeah, it's the travel lodges, Edmonton, Enfield, Premier Inns, wherever we can get in.
Edmonton's
but we were saying, I don't know if you've noticed, that they've almost doubled or tripled in price since last season. We used to be able to get Saturday night ones for about 35, and now they're more like 80. So for us, Sunday night ones are cheaper, but I can't stay over on Sunday nights. Joe can, because Joe doesn't work Mondays. But anyway, so we had all that, stayed over, met loads and loads of lovely people, and then I drove back yesterday, kind of nice and calmly and leisurely, and not hungover, thankfully, as well.
Yeah. Where'd you carry on drinking, Becky? Do you just go down the high road?
So Bricklayers usually we can get in, but by the time we get there, it's usually too full, and then we move over to the coach, and then that's when I normally see Liz is in the coach, and then and we sometimes drink by the South Stand as well, and then back to the coach after. But other people go to the Gilpin and is it L&T's, that kind of end of town. We don't tend to go the other end, the sort of corner pin. Is it the corner pin and the Beaver Town stuff? That's the opposite side to us.
You in there till kicking out time, are you?
Well, weirdly, this week we normally would be, but we weren't because it was raining and it was quite cold. So it was about, I think, 9ish. We went and got the train, and we were some of the last few. I don't know if you've seen the picture that Joe put on Twitter of all of us at the end, all in the dark. It's a cracking picture. It was really good because the rabbi goes in there, and there's loads of people that go in there. But yeah, I like it because it's quite big outside and it's quite kind of airy. The Bricklayers gets really, really busy. It's great for singing in the Bricklayers, but it gets rammed really quickly. And by the time me and Jack get down there, can't usually get in.
Excellent.
Hello, James.
Hi, James. I'll come to you in a minute, James. Welcome. And we've got a debutant tonight on the Cheese Room. We've been in advanced contract negotiations now. It feels like as long as a Tottenham transfer. But Becky, as agent, has really played hardball with us. But we've got it over the line. Welcome to the Cheese Room, Liz. Tell us about yourself.
Right, I'm originally from Australia. My dad was English. He was a Geordie. Grew up watching football from the age of about 6 and always watched the games. And when I was old enough to choose for myself, I fell in love with Tottenham, wanted to come over and see them. So I got one-way ticket to London because I also wanted to do other things, not just Spurs. And the rest is history. But I've been Tottenham for a long time, most of my life. And now I'm an Essex girl.
And you're a season ticket holder, aren't you, Liz? You're a season ticket holder. So
yeah, got my season ticket which was a sort of bucket list thing kind of thing. And now I'm able to meet people like Becky and all you guys, and actually be able to get on and chat with real Spurs supporters. Having been cooped up with West Ham fans for a long time in my life. They seem to gravitate towards me for some reason.
You're in a privileged position, Liz, because obviously I'm a season ticket holder, you're a season ticket holder, Becky, you're a season ticket holder, aren't you, as well? And or you go to all the games if not. And I've never met Becky at a game yet. Everyone else seems to. Even Jack, who come over from New York,
America
this weekend.
That was proper weird because he walked past me in the coach about, I don't know, 8:30, and I like, Jack, and he went, oh my God, Becky, and then he went, cheese room, like this, and then we had like a lovely chat. Yeah, he was really friendly, but we were supposed to meet, weren't we, Craig, at Sheffield United, but because John said for us to meet at Sheffield United, but we had a bit of a nightmare at Sheffield United. The journey up there was really bad, and then Joe had awful trouble with her car, and then it was like a bit rushed to get to kick off, and then but otherwise we will. We've got all the home games left. We will.
I'm pleased we didn't meet at Sheffield United because I think it would have soured the moment, wouldn't it, with that performance?
Yeah,
but anyway, let's not talk about that performance. We've of course got our resident student, James. James, welcome to the Cheese Room tonight, bringing our average age down significantly. How's your week been?
It's been pretty boring. I've cleaned and written some stuff. That's what I've done this week, but it's been all right. You know, no drinking makes life a bit, as a student, quite dull. So just been doing work, basically. Thanks for having me on as ever. Now it's not, the average age isn't, in the mid-30s or 40s. It's a bit younger, bringing it down a bit.
James, are you not drinking tonight then? What are you on, water?
Vodka.
That's what I was going to ask.
No, I haven't had a drink in 3 weeks.
Okay.
I'm doing a sober month. And then as soon as the month's up, I'm going to go right back to drinking constantly.
Is that for health reasons or to save money?
It's to prove to myself that I can not drink for a month. That's the only reason I'm doing it. It's to prove I don't have an issue, which I feel fine not drinking. So I don't think I do have an issue.
Good. Well, Tottenham will hopefully do their best to help you along your journey. I think there's 36 people watching already. We're 7 minutes in. So those that are watching, please hit the like button and subscribe. Every single like and subscribe helps significantly in terms of promoting the channel. So make sure you're liking and you're subscribing. Of course, we want to engage with you in the chat. So feel free to put any questions you may have for the panel into the chat or any reflections on the conversation as we go through tonight. We've got a smashing panel and we've got a lot to get into. So I guess the place to start is the starting lineup. So obviously no big surprises in there potentially, I don't think. Maybe Richarlison, but we'll come to that. Becky, you went to the game. How was it as you was walking to the stadium and you heard that lineup?
Yeah, so we got into London to sort of the cat pulling at my leg, about 12:30ish, and then we're in the coach and horses and catching up with everybody, and then normally we sort of see the lineups come up, and we were all sort of kind of in the moment and chatting, and then all of a sudden it was like 2:20 and we're like, oh, we need to get to the game, so we all sort of like hurried off to the game as we do, and like I was saying to Liz before, there's a lot of us that meet all go separately. I know I bring Jack, but we all kind of go separately without partners and things, and we all kind of meet up. So we've got like a really kind of nice kind of group of, but we all got like we're all spread around the ground, so we all kind of wander up the high road together and go in. And then when I had a second, I got into my seat and I looked and I was like, yeah, Richarlison and Son. And I think, like you were saying, the interview in the week after the AC Milan game, and then on Friday, Conte was sort of having a pop at Richarlison, and then I must admit, I thought he would play him. I thought he would go back after Sheffield United and AC Milan. He would go back to the teams that started against West Ham and Chelsea. So Davis left wing back and Son benched and Richarlison playing. So to see Richarlison and Son playing, was interesting. But all of us around said, this is Richarlison's opportunity now. He's got to take these opportunities. If he's going to call out the manager and he gets a starting lineup, he's got to take his chance. But yeah, Skipp in the middle, I think Skipp's doing brilliantly. He's going to need a rest at some point. He doesn't seem to be rotating him with Sarr, but that was great to see. I think Porro's had, some decent games. He was certainly one of the brighter players at Wolves, so I think he deserved his start. And then, pretty much we knew Dier would be back after being suspended for AC Milan, and then Romero, luckily, isn't injured after that ridiculous tackle that he did with sending off. So. Yeah, like I said, apart from Son and Richarlison, it was pretty much as expected, really.
Gibbo, pleased to see Davies back at left wing back.
Yeah, I think, mate, arguably best back three we've got. Arguably best two. Well, I think Davies is our best left wing back. that's proven. And I'm glad to see Porro play because obviously he's a slightly more attacking option. Hojbjerg and Skipp. Thought that's what it would obviously be. Skipp's doing really well, isn't he, at the minute? Hojbjerg does the same old. And then, I didn't think Richarlison would start after that. But obviously he did start. And Kane always going to play, isn't he? And and Son, very rarely he's left him out, has he? So and it was quite. I looked at it and I was quite happy, quite attacking. So pretty much apart from Richarlison, that's more or less the team I was hoping he'd start. To be fair,
Liz, would you have made any changes to that starting lineup, or was that pretty much where you would put it?
I was actually quite pleased because obviously Decky was not being his normal self since he had the injury. So, and he never seemed to make much impact, not as much as he used to. So I was actually pleased that Richarlison came on, and not just for that, but also as a bit of a, after what he said midweek. I think that was the best thing to do, was to just stick him on and let him have more or less a full game. And hopefully he's happier and everyone else is as well. And I think they worked really well together, that front three. I know it was not the hardest team in the world, but we've lost to people like that before. So I thought it was really encouraging, and the fact that almost straight away Skippy pulled out that amazing kick, and everyone's disputing the VAR decision, but it's a shame that wasn't a goal. That would have set him off, and he would have been happy, and we might have even got the pigeon dance and all sorts of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. James, what did you make to that lineup? Perisic, was that the right decision to drop Perisic?
Yes, because apparently Ben Davies is a world-class left wing-back all of a sudden. Random that, eh? But Perisic just hasn't been superb for us at all this season, I don't think. I think Davies has been a lot better, particularly after the World Cup. Perisic has really, really struggled, I think. Good to see Richarlison getting a start. I thought maybe after his comments after the Milan game, maybe he wouldn't. Not the Milan game. I'm glad he started. He obviously had a point to prove, and good to see Porro starting. I mean, as decent as Emerson's been recently, I think Porro did need that start in that game. It's kind of what I hoped. I mean, there aren't a whole host of choices for us to make, aside from probably at fullback and whether or not Richarlison plays. Skipp and Hojbjerg are our best two centre midfielders at the moment. So, it's pretty. I think that's the strongest 11 you could put out, basically, which I'm happy to see happen.
Gibbo, what did you make of those comments by Conte on Richarlison? Because I just thought there was a bit left field for me. I wasn't expecting it. How did you interpret it?
Well, it wasn't a massive dig, but I think it was a little jibe. Do you know what I mean? Like, you sort of like, he has been, he ain't had a great season. Do you know what I mean? I think to be fair, I think Conte is sort of like took what he said on the chin, had a little dig back, and like Becky said, go out. There you go. Then go out there today and prove yourself. But that's what we needed, mate. Richarlison's good. You need competition in those places, and we haven't had enough of that. So bringing him in when he's like angry and wants to fight for his place and's got a point to prove. To be fair, pretty decent management. We all thought, didn't we, that Conte would banish him, put him on the naughty step for a period of time, but he brought him in, and he had a decent game, didn't he? So I mean, those comments are just they're Conte comments, aren't they? So it's just it's the type of stuff he comes out with, but. Yeah.
Interesting. So obviously the game started. I thought we started relatively bright. That the first highlight obviously early on was the pass by Skippy, who picked out Richarlison, which I thought was a great finish into the into the back of the net. Liz, how did you see that goal? What did it look like in the stadium? Good build-up play, good start to the game.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as that ball left Skipp's foot, everyone was just like, oh my God. Because he just keeps improving and improving, that guy. And the fact that it was so perfect for Richarlison. And of course, Richarlison's fast. He's ambitious. He's determined. So I'm not surprised he put it away. But so disappointing afterwards. And it's a shame that he also had a couple of assists for the other goals anyway, didn't he? With Sonny's and with Kane's. So he had a really good game actually, which he did get man of the match in the end, didn't he? So
the thing that was a shame for me is that it's like someone's put in the comment there about the Sporting game. Nobody in the stadium thought it was offside. It's one of those where, if they think it's offside, fine, and the players kind of tend to know, and nobody is everyone's gone back to the centre circle. Everybody's repositioned themselves, and we always know in the stadium when it's gone to VAR because they don't put up the scorer really, really quickly. And everyone around us was saying, they did start more positively. It was more attacking. Don't get me wrong, Forest are really, really poor. But really poor. It was nice to see that kind of front foot, kind of attacking football, like as if, what we hoped after we'd see at AC Milan, after Sheffield United and after Wolves, we'd, see this sort of approach. And like you said, it's a really good finish. The way he kind of lifted it over the keeper from where we were in the South Stand was just such a great finish. But no one turns around and goes, oh, he might be offside. Not one person. And I put on Twitter that...
Was he?
No, well, I put on Twitter, if they can't decide quickly enough, they should just go with the on-field decision. I think sometimes the linesmen, they don't flag because they just think VAR will rescue them. But for the marginal ones, there's no, it's not given for the attackers. There used to be the idea that offsides were not going to be given if they were fingernail ones because it was in the favour of the attacker. And that isn't what happened. It was such a shame. We're not saying he deserves it more, but even Jack turned to me and said, Richarlison's got 2 goals in the Champions League and 2 offside goals, because I remember at the Everton one when he did take a shot off right in front of you, Liz, and did the pigeon dance, and that was disallowed. And he's had 2 now that are disallowed. But like you just said, yeah, we'll come on to it later on in the show, but his all-round play was so much better. The thing that was really surprised for me is that he played obviously right wing. When he's come on or played this season, he's always played on the left. So to play him on the right, actually, I think was quite brave, but he had to step up, and Porro possibly had, quite a lot to do with that as well, and the way they kind of interplayed. But yeah, it was just such an unfortunate goal.
Yeah. So this is one view that was shared by VAR afterwards. The lines on offside. Gibbo, you was watching that at home. If I was following the chat properly, what was your initial take when you saw this screenshot of the line?
Well, if they're putting the line to his arm, you can't score with your arm, can you? So I thought the part of your body that was offside had to be something you can score with. So you can't score with your arm. VAR is meant to be for clear and obvious errors.
Yeah. If
it takes 3 minutes to work out whether it's an error or not, it's not clear and obvious, is it? That. Yeah. So mate, that is just a non. If we're going to be giving goals, the game's about goals and moments, and that was like a moment there. Richarlison getting that first goal after what had happened in the week, and they give offside. I mean, they're looking for reasons to not give the goal. That's what they're looking for. That instead of you look at that and a referee. Surely these people are qualified officials, and they're looking at that going, well, we've drawn a line, and it's up to his elbow or whatever, and it's look at that, his elbow's in line with that part. I mean, it doesn't even look offside to me anyway, even where they've drawn the line. And then they're like, that's got to be offside. Surely one of them knows, well, that's up to his elbow, mate, and if he can't score with his arm, so we can't give that as an offside. Sure, do you know what I mean? Unless they've changed the ruling again and none of us know about it.
James, what's your take? Help us understand VAR, please.
It's just a shambolic decision, isn't it? I'm presuming. Well, I'm doing a sober month. I think the VAR official for this game should do a fucking sober month. I mean, fuck me. He probably drank more in that 90 minutes than I've in about 2 years. What is that decision? Look. The problem here is the rule, not necessarily VAR, right? 2 things. First and foremost, it's meant to be used for clear and obvious errors. Is that clear and obvious? No. So what? So then, in that situation, if we're abiding by that rule, you go with the on-field decision. Secondarily, like Gibbo said, you can't bloody score with your hand. So what? So if the offside line is where my finger is, but my hand's here, right? And this is the goal where I'm offside, am I? Well, I can't exactly go like that with my hand, can I, and score? So how do I get an advantage? The point of the offside rule is to stop people just standing about 10 meters behind defenders, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Well, how on earth does Richarlison have an advantage? My other issue is the way VAR works is it's captured at 60 frames per second, which means there is a frame every 60 frames every second. When football players are running, there's going to be gaps that VAR does not see. And the lines are never straight on. Shown in images like this, exactly, it's not straight on. His feet are onside. The part of the fucking body he scores with are his fucking feet. It's called football. Like,
Mate,
it's ridiculous.
James,
You've got to have a
Stevie Wonder can tell you that. Stevie Wonder could look at that and tell you that it's not offside, mate. That's how bad that decision is.
I mean,
That's how bad that decision is.
To be fair, playing devil's advocate, isn't it something about we don't necessarily see all the footage that they see at the VAR studio, and they do have different angles and perhaps what they
But that was
show.
supposed to improve everything. We've said this before. If you compare it to things like tennis and cricket and rugby that have kind of done well out of all their video refereeing, all the extra technology hasn't really helped. I think, like you said, it should be a straight on line. I think it should be one person as well. You know, when there's like three of them sitting in that little room, all kind of having a chat. Like you said, people were tweeting me. If you look at something for long enough, you find the answer that you want to see. So that doesn't help when there's more than one of them. So it's just we're in this situation where football is supposed to be the greatest show on earth, but they don't benefit from other sports that have got not as much money, and they haven't got as much limelight, and they haven't got the focus and all these people watching them, and they seem to have done a better job. But we're almost too proud in football to say, we're going to take what's going on here and we're going to take on what's going on now and just get on with it. It still annoys me. It depends who you get drawn on the FA Cups, whether there's VAR or not. It should be not included until you get to a certain point in the competition. That's like that in the Carabao Cup as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the point about other sports is a really valid one, Becky, because the key difference for me, cricket, rugby, etc., is you have full transparency into the decision-making process. You hear what they are saying in communication between the referees. I think that's the big thing for me. I mean, next season, James, isn't it right that we're going to have automatic offside rulings? It's going to be an auto system, so there won't even be an intervention from a person. It'll just like I don't know what they call it now. The thing they use in tennis.
They did it in the World Cup, didn't they?
Yeah. That comes into Premier League next season, I think, doesn't it? So that'd be interesting.
Because the thing is, the goal line technology works. That little like buzz on the watch. That's and this whole kind of miking up the refs business. Like you said, it would be even easier if we could actually hear what they're saying to him. Because looking at the ref on Saturday, he's looking at the players, and I saw the one yesterday that Arsenal had, which was similar. That he's sort of like pointing at his ear and going, nope, or I don't know. Or he's trying to claim he doesn't know what's going on. He's trying to kind of let the players know that he isn't being told what's happening. So yeah, it'd be a good start if we could even at least hear what's going on.
Yeah, because they do that in rugby. When you watch rugby on the TV, you can hear the refs talking.
And if it's a worry about the swearing, they'll just stop swearing because they'll adapt. They'll just get used to it.
Or you complete.
When them referees are talking, behind them you'll hear the music.
That is quality.
Any of you watch Ref Watch, but I watched it this morning as part of my swashing up for tonight. And a lot of the decisions, the Dermot Gallagher, who's the one who former ref, who sort of they give all these things to, and he says what he thinks. And he mostly agrees with the referee's decision, obviously. But today he said that a lot of them were wrong from yesterday, like the Newcastle one. There's a couple of others. And that Casemiro deserved to be sent off, and all of those. But the Spurs one, he said the VAR line is an automatic thing, and that's never wrong because that's the technology. It's never wrong, and so he didn't think that he thought the Spurs one was a offside basically. So, but he did mention the technology that will be coming in, which they had at the World Cup, and because.
But then wasn't there one in the World Cup where they couldn't give, or was it in the Champions League that they used the technology and they said they couldn't give it? It might have been the Spurs one actually. They couldn't give it because they said that it wasn't conclusive enough, so they then didn't use it and went back to human error. So that's fine as long as they make sure they use it. Because we had the incident this year, didn't we? Wolves in the FA Cup at Anfield, it didn't work, and then Wolves' goal was disallowed, and then they got knocked out in the replay. So even the technology isn't always there. I like the goal line technology. You know, the buzz on the ref's watch. That's new. They could somehow, like you said, there could be sensors. There's enough technology now, certainly in the Premier League, to put cameras around the pitch to then buzz the ref and say, yeah, it's offside or it's not. And it could be really, really quick. All the technology is there. It's the humans that's getting in the way of it.
Yeah, 100% back.
Yeah, no, I agree. Interesting, as it happens in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter that much in terms of the result, which is good news because we could be having a different conversation. We eventually did go 1-0 up through Kane. Porro assist, I think his first assist in a Spurs shirt. But is the credit goes to Porro? Does the credit go to Richie? Where do you see it, James?
Bit of both, maybe. I think you can credit multiple players in the build-up of that goal. Yeah, good cross from Porro. I was very happy to see him get an assist because, I think he needs that little lift, especially coming in, maybe didn't have the best performance in his first game. Emerson's randomly hit the form of his life and turned into Cafu. So, that's not really helped him out, has it? But, to get that, hopefully that's a little boost to his confidence. And, Richarlison was brilliant in the build-up there. I think Richie was spectacular that game, just in general. So I credit both of them. They both did well. We'll give it that.
Porro, good assist.
What was really lovely where we were is that you see Porro kind of ping over. There's a good interception from Davis in the middle where there's sort of like someone put on Twitter that he was doing like a defensive clearance. He kind of plays it back over that side, comes over to Porro, and it kind of bends in the air. And, Kane just gets up where we were. I said to Jack, as soon as it hit Kane's head, you could tell it was going in just because the flight of the way the ball was. Yeah, it was lovely. And Kane points straight at Porro, doesn't he? When he kind of goes down to the North Lower to celebrate, he points straight at Porro. It's like the old days of Kulusevski. If you remember the beginning of the season, and we had a few at the back end of last year, those ones that he would put like on a sixpence to people's heads and kind of break those over. And Perisic did do some, like you said, I think we were good, but Perisic was better before the World Cup. He's made our most assists this year, but just kind of really fallen off, whether he's tired or running up and down that wing isn't helping him, which is what he's designed to do, but never mind. But yeah, I think Porro, great.
Kane's going to gobble up that sort of service, isn't it? If he can keep that going to Kane, it will be a good second half to the season. What did you make of Porro, Gibbo?
I like him, mate. He was good. I think he can still be better, but I like him. I like his attitude, a few good bits of skill. And, Richarlison worked hard to sort of get that ball into that area. Then the cross was he clipped that in, didn't he? And then obviously, mate, Kane buries that. And it's just like, I mean, I know Richarlison got man of the match. He did work hard. It was probably one of his best games for us, mate. But Kane's just on a different level. Kane was brilliant. It just shows that how much you take him for granted that someone else got man of the match because he was dropping off, pinging balls left foot, right foot, scores with a, you know what I mean? Like, he made that header look routine, and that's not an easy header to score. He's had to direct that and sort of get his own power on it because it was a little clip cross. But yeah, mate, it was good assist from Porro, brilliant header from Kane. But I like Porro. I mean, I think he can still get better. I don't think he was perfect. I think sometimes he just sort of somebody got to tackle him where he tried to beat him or just got a block. Then defensively, he didn't look shaky defensively because, whatever we talk about tonight, like you've got to look at I think Forest were probably they were doggo. I mean, like Southampton were poor when we played Southampton at home. I thought, cool, this is like a friendly. But for that first half, Forest were really, really passive and clueless. But you still got to beat them. You still got to do the right things. But yeah, I'm expecting good things from Porro. I think the more games he gets, a little bit of work with him in defensive areas. But he wants it, doesn't he? I like the old, giving it the crowd some. And shushing
Mm-hmm.
the Forest bench and that. Yeah, he's got something about him, mate. He could be, I think fans will, and being like that, if you do have a bad game or things ain't going great, you got a bit of credit in the bank with the fans if you give that, you give that sort of effort. And I like him. I think he's going to be decent.
Good. And Liz, obviously, Richarlison, we've just mentioned they got man of the match on the fans vote. Did it look that way in the stadium? I wasn't at the game, so did it? Watching it live, was he all over the place? Was he as good as people said?
Oh yeah, and I think it's good because the fans were behind him as well, and so it made. I'm hoping that it lifts his confidence, and he just gets better and better, so he can sort of start producing that we thought he might produce. But yeah, going back to Porro, I think he seems to love the club. I don't know what it was on, whether it was Insta or something, but something he said, and he was. This is like his dream come true to come to Spurs for some reason. So the fact that he's like doing all these great assists and everything, he sounds like he's over the moon. And I think if that unit are gonna like really bond, that's gonna only help going forward. And I think that and the crowd seem to like him as well. I think before long they'll be singing the song for him too. But also from where I was sitting anyway, and I just couldn't stop. I was just captivated by Kane. Like you were talking about Kane a minute ago. It was like he almost he can play every position because he was helping out in defence. He helps out here. He's all over the place. And I thought you might as well just clone Kane and have a Kane for every position because he can do it all. And
this is why it's always so when people start thinking about when he does leave, whether it be this summer or next summer when his contract ends, is that he contributes so much.
He does.
That when that's not there, you worry who is that player that's going to do that, because I think people felt that maybe Richarlison was going to be a Kane in waiting. But Richarlison so far isn't playing that kind of role. He's playing as a winger. And me and Jack definitely noticed this week that Kane was dropping deeper much like he did last year. And he was pinging the balls over to people. And I still remember when Emerson has a go at him for England games that he doesn't like that he plays so deep. But by doing that for us, there was so much more free, open play. And it gave Skipp more space and Hojbjerg could go a bit further forward. And it just, people putting in the comments now, why don't we do that all the time? Why does there almost seem to be a different way of playing almost every match? We should have played like that we should have started him at Sheffield United for a start. And we could have played like that at AC Milan. Why are we leaving it for Forest, who were dreadful? And it's a lot of people talking in the ground were saying it was fantastic. I said to Jack, it was like a confidence game, a game to get your confidence. It's a shame Kane didn't get a hat-trick, but it was a game to get your confidence back. Keep going, keep attacking, keep running the players. But why... and people were saying, we can't tell how good it actually was because it was Forest and Forest were so poor. And going back to Porro, there will be times where he will come up against better attacking players. And I think defensively, he still needs to kind of be a little bit sharper. But it was just like I tweeted, it was like the good old days. We were attacking, we were going, there was pace, there was energy. Why have we left it to Nottingham Forest when we've been knocked out of everything else that we've been playing for? That's the frustrating thing. And if Conte is now going to play like this for the rest of the season when we aren't playing twice a week, why haven't we been doing this for the last month? Why are we leaving it till now?
I think the difference, Forest were poor, but I think Porro runs ahead of Kane more than Emerson does. I think Richarlison makes those runs more than Kulusevski does. Kulusevski likes to get the ball to feet and do it. And I think Davis, even though he's a defensive player, runs beyond the ball
halfway
more than Perisic does, even though Perisic is more attacking. So I think even though it was Forest and they were a pile of shit, I do think that having Porro, Davis and Richarlison Give Kane.
But that still goes back
more
to that
attacking
situation.
options.
Why
Yeah,
did we bring
absolutely.
Perisic back for the Milan game? Why do you mean? I know he just said we want them to rotate players, but not at the expense of the way we play. And if Conte's so rigid about his formation, he's not going to change the formation. He's changing the personnel. Why have we left it for the sort of lesser matches?
Yeah, we only
I think that's
show
why
up.
everyone's frustrated because of those decisions.
We only show up when it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not that it doesn't matter, but it matters a lot less.
Less,
right? Like
yeah.
they are horrific away from home Forest, and their best player got injured. Like it's it's just shambolic. How is the World Cup finalist, the world class Perisic, getting mugged off in that position by Ben Davies? I love Ben Davies. He is the Welsh Maldini, but he's a defensively minded player who we think's a pretty decent left-sided centre back.
He's got more legs, James.
He's
just got more energy. I mean, Perisic is starting to look like a 38. He's 34, but he looks like a 38-year-old playing, doesn't he?
I think
he's got great delivery, but he does, Beck. I'm not being nasty, but he looks like the Premier League, like playing in Italy. Is a different kettle of fish. Playing in the Premier League is high intensity.
There's definitely been a drop-off since the World Cup. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
I heard that he was going back. He wants to go back. Anyway.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Fair enough.
I think Italian football suits him more.
I mean, where would you rather live? Would you rather live somewhere in Italy or North London? Tricky one.
And Udoji's coming in, isn't he? Udoji's coming in, so they know that they've got somebody else in that position anyway.
But all I'll say is, as well, that's the first time, like you've said, we've played Forest and we've been on the front foot and we've played in a more attacking team. Because when we've played the Chelseas and Man Cities and we can play that, we have to sit back because you can't be as free-flowing because they'll take you apart. That's worked. But when we've played that against lesser teams and they don't come at you, you sort of get hit. You get hit by a sucker punch. So though what we did against Forest is what we should be doing against rubbish teams, playing on the front foot. We are the better team. We are at home. When that's the situation, you need to take it to those other teams. And that's what we did. But I think Forest didn't even try and defend. I think they just come and tried to play, which is like, if you're playing on the front foot, we'll take them apart, which we did. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's good conversation. We will get on to the look ahead to the rest of the season, actually, because I think you made some interesting points about Conte having the week between games and everything else and what the future holds around team selection, etc. But that took us to the penalty for Kane. Kane to Richie.
VAR wasn't needed for that. There was no VAR needed for that penalty.
Yeah. Did you notice Richie trying to make a statement to take the penalty, by the way? Yes.
Well, I didn't live, but I've read since that he asked if he can take the penalty. And I think an Arsenal person had gone, oh yeah, that's that shows there's no confidence in the team and and of course everyone replies going, it's Kane. Kane takes penalties. And those of you that seen, I've retweeted the pen. I did take a shaky cam version of the penalty, but people who were closer and have done better ones. I retweeted to say that Aurier doesn't move. There was a penalty that we had this season. I can't remember who it was. Yeah, Bentancur didn't move either. And it's just like, they just know. So Aurier's hand on hips doesn't even, and all that after all the watching the which game was it? Chelsea won in the week, with all the encroaching, and they had like 2 goes at it, didn't they? When the guy at the post, I said to Jack, Aurier doesn't even attempt to encroach. He's like, this is going in, there's no point. But going back to the actual penalty incident, it was a great pass across, and it was nice at the. I thought the interplay between Kane and Richarlison was much more polished this week. When they tried it at West Ham and Chelsea, there were times where they were sort of getting each other's way and were flicking over the top and wasn't quite working. It seemed a bit better this week. But when he passes it over to Richarlison, the guy literally just kind of like wipes him out. But yeah, you were saying there, Craig, that you weren't there. What a shame, because I said to Jack, the first thing I said is, when was the last time we saw 2 goals in the first half in the North Lower? That never happens, ever.
No, never.
2 goals in the first half. And genuinely, it was like, and it's not like a rhetorical question. I couldn't remember the last time we did that.
I my dad. I give my seat to my dad on Saturday, and he made that comment about seeing 2 goals in that end, and he can't remember ever seeing a goal in that end because we never score that end ever. Because we never turn up for the first half. That's why, ordinarily. But yeah, no, typical.
Yes.
So I had someone say to me today, well, like Kane should have let Richarlison take that penalty, and I said, you're kidding me. Kane wants to beat Shearer's record. There's no way he's giving a goal away. Not to anyone.
I can imagine if we were 3-0 up or 4-0 up, but not when it's just 1-0 and that early on in the first half. You know, if it'd been late, even if it'd been 1-0, 80 minutes, he possibly may have given it to him.
What about if he was on 2 goals? What if we were 4-0 up and he was on 2 goals?
No.
He ain't giving that penalty.
No, it's still Kane. It's still Kane.
I think Kane only would have given it when he knew he'd overtaken Shearer's record.
And I'm not sure he'd have done it then.
I don't think so either. But he's got 20 goals, hasn't he now? So 20 goals now in the sixth for the 6th time. It's Lee McQueen. I'm taking his quote here. Shearer's done it 7 times, so it's 20 goal season for him in a season where we've talked before that obviously he's beaten the Spurs record and it's a great season for him. But just because of Haaland, people aren't mentioning Kane as much because of the goals that Haaland's got. I'm disappointed he didn't get a hat trick though.
Yeah, I am. He should have. What's the latest in terms of Haaland goals? Where's he on now? Premier League goals?
He's on about 20. Is he on 24 or
24?
I thought it was more than that. I thought it was 28. I thought it was 28. Yeah,
is he on 28?
26 and 5 assists. Kane has 20 and 2 assists in 27 league performances, league games. Which 20 goals and 27, really good, right?
Kane's better than him.
Well, interestingly, Kane has better
mate.
shot accuracy. I mean, to be fair, if I played for Man City, I'd probably score 10 goals a season. I mean, Raheem Sterling scored. Well, I'm not being funny, but when Kevin De Bruyne is giving you inch-perfect crosses about 20 times a game, you know, I'm sure Cooler would bag in 10 a season. You know, you just got to stand at the back post. You know, you could go down the local Wetherspoons in Portsmouth and find the fattest bloke in there drinking 99p ale, and he'd probably bag a hat trick. So
let's be honest though, mate. Like we said, for me, Richarlison gets man of the match, but just shows how much Kane's taken for granted because he was head and shoulders the best player on that pitch, quality and just for what he did in the game. And like Richarlison, hopefully Richarlison will come better and score goals. But if we're looking at Richarlison as the replacement for Kane, if he goes, there's no comparison. He can't do what Kane does. No way.
And if Kane didn't spend a small portion of his game doing all the midfield, clearing up here, clearing up there, if he had a Kane to pass to Kane, like a De Bruyne Kane pass to Kane, if he had that De Bruyne role as good as if someone was as good as Kane was doing it as him or De Bruyne, then Kane would have a lot more goals.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A lot more
Which
goals
is why we'll come on to it later on, but the whole kind of Danjuma conversation and about, you know, bringing Moura on and not Danjuma and all that sort of stuff. Because Kane, I said to Jack, Kane's never getting subbed. They'll all keep him on in case he gets a hat trick or whatever. But yeah, we'll come on to that later on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the Kane issue, obviously 20 goals for the season. I think in any other season, if it wasn't for 28 goals, he would be getting massively hyped up, wouldn't he? He's such an underrated player. I did wonder, I was with you actually, Gibbo, for what it's worth. I thought that he was head and shoulders man of the match on the game. I thought he was brilliant. I thought the vote for Richarlison was perhaps, I don't want to sound horrible, but almost a pity vote because of the criticism that he got from Conte and fans sort of having his back a little bit in terms of, well, I thought he did play well.
Was one of his best games though. Yeah, I would say Richarlison. You're right. Kane was there, but of Richarlison's, it was one of his best games he's played for.
I'd say it was Becky. It was Richarlison's best game, and he did work hard, and he contributed to the game more. Do you know what I mean? Even though they were assists and pre-assists, which I think a lot of his games, he's sort of done a lot of running, a lot of defense, being diligent defensively as a forward, which you know, and I don't think he contributed. But that game, even though he didn't score, well, he should have had a goal. He contributed, didn't he? He worked hard, he played well, and he contributed, and that's why he got it.
Yeah, I think most Spurs fans were probably going, look, and this is my view, involved in all the goals, and he scored a goal. He did score a goal, just because it
and a good
wasn't
goal at
official. That. We agree it was a goal. In symbolism, right? An honorary goal. So yeah, he was brilliant. But Kane is brilliant. No one can replace Harry Kane. You know, no one on earth does what Harry Kane does. You know, no one is that good a goal scorer and that good a creator aside from, I don't know, Messi,
prime,
that's what I mean. Not that I think Kane is anywhere near as good as prime Lionel Messi. Different players, but does that similar kind of function, right? Creative and incredibly goal scoring. So, you know, Richie's a very adequate forward player. Richie's a very good forward player, I think, but you know, he's never going to be Harry Kane. So
no.
And then obviously 2-0 half time. Second half started. On 62 minutes, Romero charging up the pitch, passed the ball into Richie, crossed to Son. It was blocked, came back out to Richie again, who crossed again to Son. Son brilliantly controlled the ball, slotted it away into the corner on his left foot. And Becky's happy. Yeah. 3-0. Becky, good goal.
It was, and like you said, it was down to Richarlison. There were a few times when Romero was kind of bombing forward. I can remember when the penalty was saved as well. We had a counter-attack and Romero had the ball in the centre circle. But yeah, so this one, we lose the ball, don't we? Richarlison then wings it back. And interestingly, if you remember back to the Forest away game, that was the keepy uppies one, wasn't it? When Carragher was having a go at Richarlison. I remembered that yesterday. And he then does that sort of bendy kind of assist for Kane for the header. And when I saw the Son goal from the other angle, it does the same sort of thing. It doesn't bend as much, but it bends. But when it went in, it's very Sonny-esque. You know, he holds it, drags it back, waits for the defender. I don't think he ever intended to nutmeg the defender, but it went in the opposite corner. But Jack turned to me and went, I am so glad he scored that because he took an absolute age to get the shot off. But yeah, I said to Jack yesterday when we were coming back, you know, we saw, I know he's lucky he goes to every home game, but I was thinking for those people that didn't go to the match on Saturday for whatever reason, and that's their personal choice, they could be busy, there could be all sorts of reasons. People that then took up those tickets, particularly the younger people, had seen 2 Harry Kane goals, one of them being a penalty. They'd seen a dodgy VAR. They saw a saved penalty miss. They saw Sonny score. You know, that it was for a game that was fairly straightforward. There was a lot going on in that game, and there was some big moments. But yeah, to see Sonny score, always delighted to see Sonny score. And he also went straight over to Richarlison to sort of, thank. Someone's put in the comments, Richarlison was involved in all 3 goals because obviously he was fouled for the penalty. So, he was just much, much more involved, and that's all going to be a good thing for him. And yeah, it's just a shame he didn't get the goal, really.
The guy who I work for, Becky, his dad's a Spurs fan. The guy who I do work for is a Liverpool fan, but his dad's a Spurs fan, and that was his first time. They got him a ticket for Christmas, and he's gone with the Worcestershire Spurs fan supporters club. And that was the first game he was going to. So I kept saying, like we were talking about, and I said, "Oh, mate, I don't know what your dad's gonna." Do you know what I mean? I wish he was going.
You don't know which team's turning up.
Yeah,
which team's going to turn up.
And then, so I was really pleased for him that he got there, and we came up against Forest, and he got to see Kane score and Son score, and it was a decent game to watch. There were lots of things going on. So yeah, I thought that for him, fair play.
In the ground, Liz, was it a view of how many we're going to score at 3-0?
Yeah, I guess so. I think everyone was really hyped. I was expecting, after sort of reading all these negative comments beforehand, I was thinking, everyone's going to be booing. It's going to be really bad atmosphere. And it wasn't. And in fact, nearly everyone that I spoke to, no one thought anything was wrong. It was almost like it never happened. But yeah, and everyone was just buzzing. I mean, there wasn't the normal Antonio singing after the goals. which normally used to ring out quite a lot. There wasn't that, but it was really, everyone had a great time. It was just a great game, and in a way, I'm glad, because things were getting a bit negative after all the recent losses.
Scoring first always massively helps at Spurs, and I've read lots of people say this. They're like, we only really sing, so we sing, he's one of our own when he scores the goal. We then sing nice one, Sonny, when Sonny scores. We do the usual "Come on, you Spurs" and all the songs that we sort of sing. Interestingly, the player ones, like the Porro ones and the Richarlison ones, get played kind of in the concourse. And Liz and I are lucky enough, we've been to away games this season, and they get sung at away games. They don't yet seem to kind of make it into the South Stand. There's a very select amount of songs that make it in. It wasn't hugely singing on Saturday. I think people are still a bit kind of, a lot of people have just been back from the AC Milan game. And I think when you play games so close together, I know I felt it going from Sheffield United straight to Wolves, that kind of 2-3 day gap. You feel very flat. And then we've had AC Milan, and it was not toxic. There was no toxicity, but it was just a bit flat. Scoring first massively helps. That does help the kind of the approach, and you absolutely, I agree. It was that sort of, how many are we going to get here? And like I said before, it's like a confidence game to just keep going. Interestingly, Forest did sort of come back into it a little bit more, and we were under the cosh far more than we should have been. They should have been out of sight, and then we kind of started making mistakes, and Forster did superbly as well. I think I've seen tweets yesterday to say that actually we aren't missing Lloris because Forster's stepped up massively. It was a shame they conceded. It was probably the worst part of his play the whole game. But Forster's playing. He made some decent saves for a team that are poor and low on confidence. He made some decent saves. And
yeah, he did. Paul Walter put in the chat. I remember seeing this actually. That moment that high pass from his left, chest it down and sweeps it out to Romero. I thought it was a really sweet move from Forster. I think overall he has been in really good form, and he pulled off, as you've alluded to, Bex, a couple of important saves. One from Aurier, who I thought was destined to score, by the way. But they did score, and arguably, was it Forster at fault? Gibbo, should he have done better?
Yeah, mate. I think if you come in there, mate, you got to take everybody out, haven't you? Because as well, keepers get, even if he'd have gone into a Forest player, he'd have probably got the free kick, because keepers get so well protected. But mate, he's nowhere near it, is he? We're not. I don't think defensively we're brilliant defending with headers. But if Forster's come there and he's just got nowhere near it, and then obviously Waddle's just literally got his head on it at the back post and an easy header. But yeah, he had a bit of a stinker for that one. But I think he has grown into that role. I think he obviously hadn't played a lot of football. Now he's come in and he's had a few games. He was shaky against Leicester, but he does look. I'm not saying he's better than Hugo Lloris. Probably isn't, mate, to be fair. But distribution is a lot better. So I think the defenders feel a lot more comfortable giving him the ball or letting him have the ball. The wide men can they know they're not going to get that lofted pass chest height, because Forster's kicking it off left and right foot, isn't he? So, and he's a big guy. He's a big presence in there. So I think Forster's been. I think he's been all right. I think he's been the best number 2 keeper we've had for a long time, and it's making the loss of Hugo a lot easier on the team. But yeah, mate, he's had a stinker for that goal, I think.
Yeah. James, I don't know if you've got any stats there, or you've seen any stats. Where does Forster stack up for you? Able back up, future number 1? Where do you see him?
I don't think he's a future number 1, right? I mean, he's a good backup. I think that, especially with defenders, if you know the keeper behind you's got an error in him, you're a bit more nervous, aren't you? Right? Because you're like, oh shit, don't make him have to make a save. He's going to cock up. I think he's calming. I mean, good save for the penalty as well. Good save that. I think, Hugo saved some penalties, but I think he's probably one of the better second choice goalkeepers in the league overall. I don't think he's done very much wrong overall. I think he's been a very, very competent backup. The question is, does he stay here next season? Because I think we all agree we need to bring in a long-term replacement. Well, the thing is, if we bring someone in next season, does that mean Hugo goes? Or do we keep him on as a second choice? Does he go in the summer? Does Forster go? Or do we have 3 goalkeepers?
It depends who you get, doesn't it, James? If you got a Pickford or a Raya, which have been mentioned in the comments, I'm not saying that's who I'd have, then I think you've got to let Hugo go. If he wants to go back to France or somewhere, you let him go. And you've got Forster, who's an more than adequate number 2. I think you're still well stacked in goal. So
my potential worry with something like that is it's not just the on-field stuff. Conte was very impressed by Hugo in the dressing room, perhaps, which our dressing room, who bloody knows? But
you got to move on, though, ain't you?
Yeah, but you never know. Maybe he wants to hang around and do his coaching badges and be a coaching goalkeeper. If that's what he wants to do, if he says, "Look, I want to do one more season and then I want to do my coaching stuff at the club," in which case I kind of go, well, if we're bringing someone in to be a first choice anyway, is he kind of okay, good enough to be a second choice? There is a tad of a dilemma there. But yeah, we still need a first choice keeper because neither of them are good enough for the ball at their feet, even though I think Forster's better because Hugo is. It terrifies me whenever he tries to actually play football. He's got to be one of the worst goalkeepers in the league with the ball at his feet. It's just scary, But yeah.
Raya's quality. Someone like Raya is absolutely quality with his feet.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if we got Pickford now that Pickford signed a new contract. I think
Pickford's crap.
Seems odd. It is, yeah. I don't like him. He's a bit erratic, but I'd be. People are mentioning him there. Once he signs for Everton, unless there's some clause if they go down, and
Yeah.
But I'd be surprised.
Here's a question. I'll go to Liz first, and I'll open it up. When Hugo returns from injury, does he get back in, or do we stick with Forster in goal?
It's a tricky one because Forster has done really well, and I was so impressed on the weekend. But Lloris is still our number 1,
captain.
And captain. And I do think we go with Lloris.
Okay, others? Beck?
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't necessarily think that's fair. I think when you kind of play yourself into the team, you deserve to stay. But it's different with keepers, isn't it? I always think it's funny about his presence. People say about his presence. When we watched that thing on Amazon Prime, I always thought he didn't really kind of. When they had the shot, they had sometimes where Kane. They remember when they'd be in the huddle and they'd say who was going to speak. I remember Mourinho used to say, "Who's going to speak? You speak," and they'd all go "Whoa," and they'd all swear. And Lloris didn't really kind of say a great deal and have that kind of. I don't know. I think it's tricky. He's been here a long time. He's been longer than Forster. We keep saying about when Kane plays all 90 minutes and he doesn't need to. There are things go on that we don't know. We're not privy to. So I think it's unfair. It's a bit harsh when he's played well. But equally, he stuck with Lloris when Lloris was making all those mistakes. So who knows? It's different, isn't it, with the Goalkeepers Union?
Gibbo, how do you see it playing out?
I should imagine he'll put Lloris back in, but I wouldn't. To be fair, if Forster carries on as he's doing, he did make a mistake, but Hugo's made a lot of mistakes. If he's doing all right, if the team are confident in him, then I think he should keep his place. And because I also think that if Lloris comes straight back in, I can understand like the Kane thing. Kane is on another level. But like with Lloris, he has made mistakes this season, and he was kept in the team even when he made them. I think if you keep Forster in there for a couple of games, hopefully that will, Lloris will be like, I've got to up my game as well. So I'd keep Forster in as long as he keeps playing the way he does. But I think, to be fair though, mate, I think it's irrelevant because I think they'll just bring Lloris straight back in. Yeah.
Well, the other thing as well, he may not. We don't even know if he'll make it for the end of the season. We're assuming that he will be fit.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. If anyone knew,
no.
Anyone in the group chat know? Let us know in the group chat if you know when he's due back or not.
Was it meant to
They
be
said 6 weeks, didn't they?
Yeah.
They said 6 weeks. That feels ages ago. Arsenal feels ages ago.
So about
and Bissouma.
Yes.
Say that again, James. Sorry.
So about 3 months of our medical team.
Yeah. And a few more for just general other stuff that goes on. Yeah. The game continued then. Penalty was awarded following a not as lengthy VAR review. Obvious penalty for you, Bex, in the stadium?
No, and we didn't even realise it was one. So, and the players didn't. I remember Dier going up to Kane, and Kane, they were both like, "What's going on here?" And then a few of them are like, phones are pinging and going, "Oh, it's gone to VAR," and then it comes up at the top, possible penalty. And it was inevitable. Once they get told to go to the little TV, he's going to overturn it. And then weirdly, in the ground, I don't know. I'm sure this is right, Liz. We didn't see a replay. Certainly didn't see the offside lines. We didn't need a replay for the penalty because the Kane penalty, because that was definite. But we didn't see like replays of the thing. But after they made the decision, they then showed a very quick replay of the Kulusevski handball, which I thought was just slightly outside the area. Yes, he possibly did have his what he was doing. I don't know. He was back to goal, didn't he? And he had his kind of arm just in front of him like this. It was a bit odd. He'd only been on for about 2 minutes. But what I noticed, what was funny as well for me, is that they tried to sub Skipp off for Sarr, and he went to the touchline, and then the referee called him back and said, "No, we haven't dealt with the penalty incident yet, or they haven't." So Skipp came on to stay on to watch the penalty be saved, and then as soon as the counter attack finished and the ball went away, Skipp went off for Sarr. So that was a bit kind of disjointed as well. But yeah, Kulusevski had been on like a matter of minutes, but I didn't notice it live at all.
What was there a feeling of here we go again? That obviously the penalty brought it back to 3-2.
Not really. We were very, very comfortable, and even Forster had made those 2 saves. Yes, he wasn't great for the goal, but it never really felt that they were constantly coming at us. So we, like someone put in the chat earlier on, I turned to Jack and said, "This is a goal difference game. This is a game where we get our goal difference up." So 3-2 would have been a shame that we'd only won by 1 goal, but no, we shouldn't. Like I said, I alluded to before, that we just seem to get deeper and deeper. Or, Longley, he was a bit. There was a few headers he missed, and Dier was going in for tackles, and it just all got a bit messy, really. And better teams. That's why people were saying it was painting over the cracks, because a team like that shouldn't have scored 2 goals against us. It should have been out of sight.
We should have took them to the cleaners, shouldn't we, Beth? Like I kept saying in the group chat after it was like 2-0, I'm like, this is going to be 3-4-5 here.
Like
we
Norwich,
should just systematically dismantle them because they are rubbish. But we tend to lose that little bit because like Kane does the dropping in and tend to just lose that little bit of control in midfield, don't we? We don't really sort of completely take the ball by the horns and absolutely smash the granny out of them, do we? Which is what I want to see Tottenham do, like we did against Norwich and like we did against Newcastle in the second half.
Newcastle and Leicester. And
absolutely go to town on them.
I've just got an image of you smashing up a granny or something.
No, you know what I mean.
I'm not sure what that means.
Menace of the elderly.
That's what I want to see us do, mate. I want to see us absolutely take a team like that to the cleaners.
It's an interesting hill to die on.
That's tickle.
Richie's goal should have stood, right? And they scored from a set piece, which... How are we conceding goals from set pieces? Whatever.
It was the last kick of the game, wasn't it, James?
It's like the 80th minute, whatever. Who cares? Lay on. We'd won the game by that point. And the penalty was in there. I mean, if you take away a bit of terrible set piece defending and a correct officiating decision goes our way, and Richie's goal stands, we beat them 4-0, right? It's just football can be like that sometimes. But yeah, we absolutely should have gone on. We shouldn't just sit so bloody deep in these games. It reminds me of Mourinho. Like we go 1-0 up and it's like, right, lads, everyone back in defence, 1-0 lead. Let's win 1-0. It's just a bit.
Sounds mad, doesn't it? I'd have been not gutted to beat them 3-2 because I'd have been happy we won 3-2.
I would have done. It would
have felt like
they didn't deserve it.
Yeah, it wasn't a 3-2 game, was it? But obviously we nearly made it a 3-2 game.
Yeah. Which shows that our centre backs are still the issue. It's still our defensive part of our play that's poor.
And of course, by this point, we was coming towards the end of the game, noticeable in no subs being made again. No subs were made until the 84th minute, when eventually Lucas and Kulu came on for Son and Richie. My obvious first question to you, James, is what has Danjuma done? Why is he not getting minutes over Moura?
He's kidnapped Conte's cat and he's holding him hostage. I don't know. What the fuck was the point in bringing him in? What, to wind up Everton?
He's only a 6-month loan, isn't it? He is only on loan. But only on loan, isn't he, though?
But Moura's pissing off in the summer. Anyway, so I don't understand the point, really. I don't know why we brought him in. It's kind of like in Football Manager, where you go, well, if all these guys get injured, then I need free cover options. So you think we'll just bring him in and he'll never play unless we get an injury. Actually, like the substitutions as well remind me. If you're playing again in Football Manager, you click restart, you go to pause it, the second half, you go to pause it to go to the toilet or make a cup of tea or something, and then you realise you didn't pause it, and you're like, oh, the game's ended. Oh crap! That's kind of how Conte's substitutions feel a little bit like sometimes.
He's either utter bobbins or he's a club signing and Conte's making a point. One or the other.
So he just really rates Lucas Moura then. Fair enough. Maybe Conte just really likes Moura. Maybe they, play games of, I don't know, Scrabble together or something. I don't know what he's done. It's bizarre.
Liz, what do you make of it all? Because my view on Danjuma is we saw him at Preston, because me and Joe were at Preston, and we saw him come on, scores within minutes of coming on, does the snake celebration thing right in front of the Spurs fans, and we were like, oh, we've got someone who can play up top, get on the end of crosses, and we haven't seen him since. What do you make of Danjuma?
A bit in two minds. So part of me thinks, because you know what Conte's like, he wants to, if he's going to put someone on, he has to be confident that they're fit enough and everything for his role for them. So maybe they haven't done enough, because obviously Conte hasn't actually physically been there. So maybe it's to do with that they're not sure. They want him to get fitter, because he's all about the fitness and so I was thinking that maybe it was because of that, or that, like you said, he didn't sign him and he didn't want him, so he's just leaving him out.
Because the comment he made on Friday, I think, wasn't it? He said he's a January signing. It's like this argument that you can only play for me if you came here for the whole of the close season. Because bearing in mind, Spence signed at the end of close season, didn't he? And then he got COVID and all that sort of stuff.
But that's what I mean. Maybe he needs more training. He needs more teaching of the system. Look at how long it took Emerson to get to grips with it all. But he does tend to be like that, Conte.
It's just odd, isn't it? Because Porro's come in, had a few, even with his shocker at Leicester, he's been able to kind of, and we always just seem to think they've just done poor in training. Spence had a bad attitude in training, and I remember at the beginning when he wasn't playing Sarr, everyone was like, "Why is Sarr not playing? We need to be playing Sarr." And to be fair, Sarr isn't actually playing much now. Skipp's playing great, but Sarr isn't playing as much either. So it just seems it's like people are putting here. Danjuma, I'm not saying this isn't the main reason, but Danjuma's always tweeting things before the games. Richarlison does the same. He's always, trying to kind of be positive and put things out there. And people then think, oh, he's going to play. And he's not even getting like substitute appearances. There was really no need for Moura to come on Saturday. Why couldn't it be in Danjuma? I always say this to Jack. Bring the new players on at home. They get a massive roar, a massive cheer. They get Conte there to run up and down the side of the pitch with. I just think it's just a weird thing. Moura didn't touch it, I don't think, either.
Is there? But Beck, there's no future for Moura, is there? Moura's leaving. Moura's going at the end of the season. And for that few minutes that he come on, like you said, get Danjuma on, give him some minutes. We're winning. The game's finished. Really, I know they could have scored, but it's like, give him the minutes. But then again, I suppose they'll both be going in at the end of the season, won't they? If you look at it now,
But I think people are saying though, if Danjuma had done well, it might be one of those,
Option to
not an
buy.
obligation to buy, but an option to buy. And we're not
Yeah.
even seeing any of that because we know Moura is going. He hasn't said it himself, but he is going. And that's the side of it. You're like, we can't see if he's any good because we're not seeing any of it.
And this, Becky, is where it's going to come to when if we talk about managers or whatever, that if there are going to be club signings, it's no good making club signings if you've got a manager that won't play club signings, if you get what I mean, or even give them a chance all the time of day. No matter what your opinions are on managers, if the club are going to make club signings, then you've got to have a manager or a coach who is willing to work with said club signings and give them minutes when they can. Like, because there's been games where Spence could have had games, but Hill, and Hill, and they never. So that's that other conversation, isn't it? That we'll, whether we'll get to it or not. But and like you said, the Danjuma thing, he came on against Preston, looked okay, didn't he? He didn't have lots of time, but he didn't look. I don't think you'd get a lot worse from him than you would from Moura. So,
yeah, it's a very, very odd. I mean, we confidently predicted, Gibbo, on many a pod that we would never see Moura in a Spurs shirt again, didn't we? How wrong were we both?
Yeah.
I think when he didn't go, was it Fenerbahce that wanted to come in for him? It was a Turkish team, wasn't it? Because their window is longer than ours. When that didn't materialise, I thought, they've kept him here to have last hurrah, a few substitute appearances, bring his kids on the last game of the season, wave everybody off. I'm all for that. But when you've got other players that need minutes, bring them on too. Take Kane off. Take Kane off and bring Danjuma on.
What if he's in your squad? What if players get injured and then you have to use him? But he takes a little bit of time because he hasn't had any minutes at all. I know there's people in here say Conte doesn't care about giving minutes. I know he doesn't care about giving minutes, but why, if he's been brought in, I don't think he can do any worse than Moura. They're like literally minutes, even if it's 5 minutes. It's sort of like it just seems a little bit to me, a little bit. Look, I'm playing more I'm going to play Moura. I don't want to play this guy, but it is what it is, mate. At the end of the day, as long as we win, that's all that matters, isn't it?
But I just think if Danjuma is going to be a half decent player for us, it's someone that we could have signed and someone we could have kept. It's a bit of a waste. What a waste for him. He's come over like we said this with Hill. He's come over. He tried his best. I thought he played well in a couple of the Champions League games. Remember he made the penalty for one of those games, and then now he's gone to Seville, and this weekend he's assisting for Lamela. And living his best life.
Well,
different managers, different ideas.
I bought Bryan Hill's shirt, so
you did.
I
cursed him. You did that with Lo Celso as well.
I know. I spent a lot of money on that shirt.
He might be back.
Yeah.
He might be back.
He might be back. You never know.
That concluded the game essentially after those subs. Sarr got a few minutes towards the end. I guess to summarise the game before I'm conscious we're going on for an hour 13, but we'll continue going because there's a few more things to talk about. Was that a good Spurs performance, or was it just a really, really poor Forest side?
Liz, you answer that.
Okay. Well, kind of a bit of both. It was a really good performance. I mean, there's no doubt the goals were amazing, including the Richarlison, which wasn't allowed. They were all good goals. But it was a poor team that we were playing. So, I know they always seem to win away, they're at home, don't they? But they don't win away. And I don't think they have won away, have they?
No.
Forest.
They've only scored 3 goals away as well. And we nearly gave them 2 more.
That would have been the Spursiest thing ever. So it was a bit of both. But from a Spurs point of view, all the goals were fantastic goals. Okay. So I'll put it down to that. I won't
Good.
sort of.
Excellent.
It was a bit. I thought it was a bit more like bit like the back end of last season. Like you said, Kane dropping deeper, playing balls over for Son or Richarlison. It was more like what we'd seen last year, but we didn't blow them away. You know, like we said, they played deeper and Forest came back into it. Better teams would have made more of a game of it, which is why no one's getting carried away. You know, you got that sense in the stadium. Great. It was lovely to be back to winning ways again. You know, it was a positive game. We capitalised on Liverpool losing beforehand. But yeah, it wasn't something to get carried away with. We've got a funny kind of run of games. You know, we've got Southampton, we've got Everton. They're poor teams, but they're fighting for their lives. So much like Wolves last week, it could be another banana skin. So I think it's great to celebrate when we have a good result. But like I said, what a waste. Why didn't we do it at Sheffield United? Because then we would have been playing Blackburn on Saturday, not Southampton away. Absolutely.
But we will come back to that. I mean, there's the fixtures, as you mentioned them, Becky. Southampton at home, Everton away, Brighton home, Bournemouth home, Newcastle away. I mean, that's a good run of fixtures. Favourable, good 5 games there. You've got to fancy yourselves to get some good points. And I guess that you've led on nicely to my next point there. This time last season, we was also out of all the competitions. And if you remember, famously, we went on that amazing run to end the season that got us 4th place. And one of the things that was most notable about last season is when we had 7 days to prepare for a game, we tended to do better. We always got good results. It's when we had those midweek games, every 3 or 4 games we couldn't play. So, Gibbo, is this a blessing in disguise? Was this all part of a master plan to get us 4th?
It shouldn't be part of the master plan, mate, because top teams finish in the top 4 and win trophies. That's what big teams do.
Let's put the fishing rod away.
That's what big teams do, right? I'm not going to go into a rant. We should be beating Forest. They're rubbish. But if we got any ambitions of doing anything, you got to be beating Forest at home, haven't you? And that's what we
Wolves,
did.
And Sheffield United.
Yeah, well,
and Leicester.
We don't go back to the FA Cup thing because that wound me up. But even the League Cup, right? Top teams, which is what we aspire to be, which is what we pay a coach a lot of money for. We've got an elite coach. Elite coaches should be able to manage 2 games in a week. And Tottenham's squad isn't amazing, but it's not fucking awful. So, like, you know, and that cup game came down to me to obviously didn't put Kane in, but it comes down to attitude and application of the players as well, which should be coming from the bench to make sure that they have the right attitude and application. And so we should be able to manage 2 games a week if you want to win stuff, mate, because that's what you sort of have to do. And it's no good putting all that in, playing really well, finishing top 4 to then say, well, you know, our manager only likes to manage every 7 days.
Gibbo, I promise I'm not trying to trigger you, although I did put in the run sheet that was a Gibbo trigger, I called it. But the fact of the matter is, whichever way we look at it, the last season, when we had 7 days to prepare for games, we did do better than when we had games midweek. Is it a realisation of the fact that we do better because we haven't got the best squad in the world in terms of depth in comparison to those other teams fighting for top 4? And actually, when they have 7 days to recover and prepare, we can do better. You know, is that a reality of the situation in us at the moment? We're not that top team as you describe.
A little bit of reality, mate, but I think in those games that we have, and I think Becky may agree with me, and hopefully Liz does, and maybe James, but I think our squad is good enough to compete more for 2 games. That's, you know, we can't just be playing. It obviously helps because you've got a whole week on the training ground and you can rest players, but then the squad needs managing better, doesn't it? Maybe does need to be a bit better, but it also needs managing better. So
I sort of mentioned it last Monday, and I'm obviously far more positive than back to my positive self again today. Is we don't change formation. So what is it they're practicing every day? Surely they're practicing the same formation. It's not like we've got to practice a different formation for that game and then different formation for that game. It's the same formation every time. And yes, I know I keep going on about Sheffield United, but it was Sheffield United and it was a reduced Sheffield United. We should, even if we're having a shocking season and Bentancur's injured and Lloris is injured and Bissouma's injured, we should have had enough to beat Sheffield United. And that will pain me. When they lose 1-0 to Blackburn on Saturday, I just think, I don't mind it if we lose to so-called stronger teams. They were there for the taking. And to just say that it's because Conte doesn't play twice a week, then that just proves that he is an outdated manager who can't adjust things for the pace of the Premier League, and the Premier League is not suited for him.
Well, here's the weird thing for me. You have a week to prepare, right? Like I said, we do the same thing every week. 9 out of 10 times we seem ill-equipped with whatever the opposition's doing. We don't make micro-adjustments based on tactical observations for our opponents. What are they doing for a week? I don't understand. Surely they understand the 3-4-3 by now, right? I don't understand what they're doing. Even in that good run we had last season, we still lost to Leicester, right? Away, I think.
And Brighton, that Brighton home game was in the middle, wasn't it?
Okay, great. So the players I think the real thing is playing the same 11 potentially, but you look at some of our rotational options; they're not that bad. I mean, I don't understand. If Conte doesn't like playing more than once a week, well, then he's not a very good manager, is he?
I never said Conte didn't like playing. Just to sum up, I just said, is the squad good enough?
We know what you mean. Yeah, we know what you mean.
Yeah, but it is a good point. The fact is that is a true position of what happened last season, and it is going to be interesting as we go into this end towards the season now.
Well, HG said it on Friday's show. He said we have a rubbish February, we kick on in March, and then we climb the league April and May. And I was like, but I weirdly said the same thing to someone in the ground on Saturday. I said, if we are in a situation where people were saying that Conte's not great in the Champions League, people saying he's a serial winner, but he hasn't done that in the Champions League.
2013 was the last knockout game he won in the Champions League.
We're gonna, if he does stay next season, I don't think he will, but if he did, are we just going to be watch this sort of defensive, sort of pedestrian sort of style until February, and then everything will kick on in February? Because he turns up saying he's come here to win trophies, but then doesn't put the strongest team out. Sheffield United didn't put the strongest team out against Forest. He's saying Spurs need patience and they want to win trophies. And well, then put out a team that's going to get us to win those trophies. That's my issue with him. I know I've got people saying that you shouldn't be saying we shouldn't have Conte. For a start, the play when it's defensive, it's hard work. To drive 4 hours to watch a game where they're walking around the pitch like they were at Wolves, certainly it's hard. But if we play like we played from February onwards last season, excellent, because that's the Spurs that everybody wants to see. But if he's not going to play the strongest teams in cup matches, then we aren't going to be able to win trophies. Our squad is not good enough to do that against when the teams get stronger. It's just, that's the frustrating side. We want to win something, and he didn't put out a team that enabled us to do that.
What I'd be really interested to see, and I'm actually going to look it up now, is the one season Conte won a domestic cup in England. He finished 5th in the league with a title-winning side. So I'd be interested to see in the seasons he has won domestic cups how heavily he rotated on the run towards the latter stages. I'm actually going to look that up. But yeah, I think it's a Conte issue.
Can I just, I think we all realise and think that Conte is a good coach. And I'll ask Liz this because obviously we've all spoke on it. Conte is a good coach. And I think we can all go around the ifs, whys and buts. But they're all irrelevant, really. I don't like the crap football. But really, it's all irrelevant because the main thing is that Conte doesn't want to stay beyond the end of this season. I think that is the issue. I don't think he wants to stay. So we've got people in the chat and we're having fair enough. We're having a bit of debate, why we think he should be doing this. And people are like, it's not Conte's fault. You can't be blaming Conte. But the whole Conte situation, because I don't know if we've got for me, Liz, I don't know what you think. I don't think he wants to be at Spurs next season. I think he wants to go back to Italy. Bad things have happened. He's had a lot going on and his family's still over there. So all the issues we're talking about, and you know, is it Conte's fault? Is it someone else's fault? Is it black? It's irrelevant with Conte because it's him who wants to leave. What do you think, Liz? Do you agree or?
I think he wants to leave as well. I can't see him staying. My issue with all of this is that we've never had a strong enough squad since probably Poch era. And the fact that when Poch got sacked, Levy brought in Mourinho, then we had Nuno, and then we had Conte. And so the three, since Poch has gone, the three managers that we've had aren't Tottenham's way of playing. And so that's why no one's happy, because people want to see the old Tottenham. And if the owners had bought in someone who was after Pochettino, because it did get toxic with him at the end, I would, like booze all the time. Why didn't they bring in a flair manager? And everyone, at least we could have tolerated. I think the fan base on the whole would have been happier than what we are now. I don't think they might be good managers, Mourinho and Conte, but I just don't think they're Spurs managers. Having said that, both of them bring in the mentality that the team need, because we've not, hence the Spursy and how people talk about Spurs. Like we got to a lot of finals with Poch or semi-finals, and we just never won anything. And it's that killer thing at the end that makes you a winner. And the fact that Mourinho got sacked just before a cup final, which we could have won, and then we would have had our trophy by now, and then this would have all been, we wouldn't have been perhaps so obsessed with it all now, because we still haven't got that trophy. But we need the killer instinct. So whoever comes in next, they need to be able to make this team a team that can really face up and want to, taking Conte's sort of words, kill the opposition. They need to be able to kill the opposition, but still play the nice football. That's the sort of manager we need, is someone like that. So, yeah. And I think Conte knows that it's not happening here. Maybe it is partly his family, but I don't think so. I think he's too ambitious sort of character for that. I think he'll just want to go on and manage another team. But I do think he realises, and maybe I don't know. There's conflicting things that come out as well, but my personal opinion is that it's probably best that he leaves, and we get someone who plays the Spurs way. There's no point otherwise. But they also have to be focused on the mentality aspect, because this is the difference between Arsenal when we were beating them all the time and loving it, and now them being top of the league. It takes time, and we never give anyone time because they're in one year and out the next.
The thing that's frustrating for me is the uncertainty. I remember Sam Matterface asked him after the Villa game on New Year's Day, "Are you staying?" And that's when he did that kind of interview where he sort of walked out of the interview, and then he did the post-match interview at the club, and he didn't answer it, and he said, "I'm not going to answer that question." And that's where it all just built from. So although I think at the moment he's now like, yeah, I've had enough because it's gone a bit toxic. And interestingly, on Saturday, he didn't come into the centre circle and clap the crowd. He didn't really hug all the players like he does at the end of the game. He was like straight down the tunnel. He didn't massively hug Richarlison and Sonny when they got subbed. And yes, I think he's sensed that things have got quite toxic, but it's the uncertainty all the time. Even we've had this discussion many times on here this year. Can we put up with the poor football if we get the results? And when we were getting the results, I can remember games like the Leeds game when we came back, the Bournemouth game when we came back, those games where we kind of snatched it. We were saying, yeah, we've played poor, but we've got the result. And someone's just put in the chat, I said about it being a pedestrian style of football. we're the one of the highest scorers in the league, but we were saying we could put up with that while we were getting the results. Yeah, when the results started turning, it was the lack of ability to do something about it that was frustrating, because we were saying we can see the teams that have worked us out. They've worked out Sonny. They've worked out how to play us in midfield. He wasn't prepared to change it. And that's when people have started saying, well, he needs to. And then he comes out and says, oh, he wants patience from the supporters. I'm one of the most positive Spurs fans I know. And I'm like, you tell us that you're staying then, and we'll be patient. This business that takes 3 transfer windows. I get that. He's probably right. But he's not committing that he's going to even stay for any of those, which then filters down to the players. And there's 2 things. Say you're going to stay, and then you're going to, like Cooper did. I remember when Cooper signed a contract for Forest, they were either bottom or second for bottom or something, and everyone was like, wow, fair play to Forest. They said, we want you to sign a contract, and Cooper has signed that contract. He needs to come out and say, yeah, I am going to stay beyond the end of the season. So I've put it on the Twitter and I've put it in groups. We're in the situation where Levy doesn't know if it's going to work. Conte doesn't know if he wants to stay. And we're stuck in the middle of this uncertainty. And that's kind of bled onto the pitch. Now, when we win, it's fine. No one's mentioned Conte out. No one's saying they don't want him to stay. I get that. But then when we play a game where we go back to being quite pedestrian and we, it's very sideways and backwards, and it's just repeatedly like that, we'll then get frustrated again, because someone like we did at Wolves will just get deeper and deeper and deeper. They'll change their formation and they'll beat us. And then it's all like, well, why didn't he change it? And we go back to this again. So he can't ask for patience if he's not going to then turn around and say he's going to stay. And if he wants to go, that's fine too. Why doesn't he just say it? And then we know where we are.
Because, Beck, if he said, look, I'm going at the end of the season, but I am going to give everything now. I think he did say it. I'm going to give everything now to this team till the end of the season, and I'm going to leave this club in the best shape I can, but I'm all in. I'm all in till the end of the season. Fans would but hopefully behind closed doors, they've said that, and the players will get on with it. Spurs can start doing their thing.
But then don't have a go at us for saying, because he used the word environment on the Friday. He wouldn't say fans. He said the environment has lost the patience. And I thought, he means the fans. That's because he won't say what he's doing.
And try to start getting you to believe that finishing top 4 is like winning the league. Well, we finished top 4 under Redknapp. We finished top 4 under AVB, didn't we? Even though we never got the Champions League thing. We finished top 4 a couple of times under Poch. So if we're to believe his logic, we've won the fucking Premier League 3 or 4 times in the last 10 years. If you'd believe how you know what I mean? It's just all that nonsense and crap. Just get on with the job. Don't start digging out the fans and digging out other and cryptic messages and all that shit. Just get on with managing the team. Say, I'm here. I'm going to give it 100%. We're aiming to finish top 4, and that is it.
He's always acted like he's doing us a favour, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You should be grateful.
It's like 15 million. Yeah, 15 million quid a year for a favour. Fuck me. That's a pretty good favour.
You do favours for that, wouldn't you, James?
I'm sure you would, give away.
15 quid.
But fuck me. 15 quid. I'll do it for a McCallum 21, to be fair. I mean, fuck me. It's just, he doesn't seem like he cares about the club. And all right, maybe some of these elite level managers don't. But the issue runs deeper than just Conte. Conte has consistently made some poor decisions this season. When we're losing, he doesn't know what to do. Right? It was the same under Jose. It's the same under Nuno, although Nuno was kind of just thrown in, right? It's just, if there's a lack of problem-solving skills, right? It's like bashing your skull against a wall and being confused why the door isn't opening. I just don't understand it. Like I say, the problem runs deeper because we've gone from, if you like, a project manager to these big names, because Levy doesn't really understand football, and he just goes, okay, he's a big name, he's the best manager. Yeah. Which I think is sincere in his belief to try and get the best man for the job. However, it doesn't necessarily work that way. It just comes across as we're just getting whoever's won something somewhere and is it available, even if they don't work with the squad and they're only going to be here for a couple of years. It's like, well, yeah, we need to do a bloody squad overhaul. We've known this for a year or two. And you can't just bring in a guy who famously is only at clubs for 1 or 2 seasons because you're not going to be able to get through that, and the entire time it's going to be a transitionary phase for a manager who doesn't really do transitionary phases. It's confusing. If we knew we had to overhaul the squad, like I'm sure Conte knew when he came in, well, then we should have managed to get someone who we could say, okay, it's going to maybe be a crap year, 18 months, 2 years, because we're going to overhaul the squad massively. But the point is to bring in players who can stick around for 5, 6, 7 years while also maintaining the quality, and the hope that we can build a new style of philosophy. And that needs to come from above, right? That needs to come from director of football. That needs to come from like a board level, not just the manager.
Director of football who don't even know if he's going to be in a job in 2 weeks.
Well, even Paratici, I don't see any overarching philosophy from him other than being a bit of a wheeler dealer. Really, what is his footballing philosophy? You know, he's not Johan Cruyff. I don't see a footballing philosophy in Paratici. Yeah, okay, brilliant. He's good at getting good deals done. That's brilliant. That's what we need. I like that. But I don't see him as someone who could long-term build a club up on the pitch. I don't know.
Sorry, Craig.
That's fine. It's a good discussion.
I've set everyone off on a rant, haven't I? Sorry.
Yeah, I think though it's about. I said, I put on Twitter this week that I said on the pod that it's time for Conte to go now. I thought after the exit out of the Champions League, I'm surprised he was still here. If obviously Southampton is the next game, which is there's no showing of a result. Let's be clear. If we don't get a result against Southampton, will Conte still be in the dugout after the international break at Everton? Becky?
I don't know. When he said on Friday, the club know my situation or the club know my view or something like that, it implies that there's been a discussion. And the next thing you hear is, no, there's been no offer of a contract extension. There's been no talk behind the scene. Fabrizio Romano comes out today and says, no, the indication is that he still will go at the end of the season. Nobody really knows. This is why I keep saying it's harping back to the uncertainty. You know, he says it's going to take 3 windows to get the squad. Great. Tell us you're going to stay for at least one of those windows and we will support you. Spurs fans are very, very patient. You know, when he said something about expecting too much or not having patience or something, someone tweeted me and went, we've waited 15 years for a trophy. You know, we do not expect things immediately, but we would like to have somebody who at least puts the cups fairly high up on their agenda, not just getting top 4. You know, I keep going back to the Kane interviews when he did the interview after Milan and he did it after Sheffield United and after when he scored the 267th goal, and he had the microphone and he addressed all the supporters and he said, we still have so much more to play for this season. 2 weeks later, only thing left is top 4. And how quickly that turned around. And that's the thing that I know I keep going on about it, but there'll be seasons where we haven't deserved to get as far as we have, and it just feels such a shame. And you know, I wanted it to work with Conte. I still want it to work with Conte, and I can sit through games that are like that if we get results. But it's the inflexibility that's frustrating for me. Like we just said, if we're losing, he just doesn't seem to know what to do about it. And I don't agree that people say he hasn't been backed. You know, we got Porro in. I think the thing with Porro is it took so long to get Porro. I remember saying, well, he wanted Porro. He wants a wing back. We've got him a wing back that he wants. So we must be thinking about continuing with his formation and using his formation going forward. So there has been signings for whatever reason, whether Paratici, there's issues there as to why we're not getting the so-called signings that he would want. We just don't know. We're hearing about club signings and Levy being more involved, and there are issues. I get there are issues that side of it completely, but I just want someone who feels that they want to be here. Now, people are putting in the chat, where is he implied that we're doing him he's doing us a favour? When he did that whole business about, when he said about Milan winning all this, that and the other and all that, you're like, what? You were like belittling Tottenham. And I think I put on the chat on Friday, I always watch the preview, the Premier League preview thing on BT Sport about 5:30 on a Friday. And they interviewed the Leeds manager. And he went, I love my players. I've got such a great bunch of lads. I love them. They are fighting every day in training. They're doing everything for me. They're just a fantastic group of lads. And I turned to Jack and went, Leeds are in a relegation battle. And listen to their manager. And then we have a press conference with Conte where he just, I know he takes forever to get the conversations across anyway. We're used to that. But it's just, he's not fulfilling me with this hope that we were even going to finish the season that well. We're just harping back to we did last year, and we weren't playing twice a week last year, and it's more or less the same players as last year. And I want that to come from him. I want to be enthused by him. I want to feel that, he's saying the right things, because this is what Poch always did. Poch used to say the right things to the media, and there were times when you think, wow, we didn't play very well, and he just said that we did. But he isn't going to throw them under the bus in front of the cameras. Conte just does. And I think that the blatant honesty was all right in the beginning when he was saying we need to improve the squad and we need this and we need that. And we're like, yeah, great. Finally, someone's stepping up and speaking to the board and saying what needs to be said. And, like when Poch said about needing the furniture in the nice house, and it's great. Someone's doing it. And something's changed when, I know there's been off-field things as well, but things have changed, and now we're at the situation where it seems like he can't wait to get out of here fast enough, and we're just sort of sitting here.
Like, there are things you can say behind closed doors to players, right? To them, because a player knows when they play crap, right? And you'd hope, because I play sport, I play esports. When you've played badly, you're annoyed at yourself, right? And I know it's not even the same, but even just playing in a video game badly in any competitive setting annoys the hell out of myself. Like, I'm annoyed at myself, right? So I'd hope professional football players would feel the same, and I'm sure quite a lot of them do feel that way. You don't need someone going on the news and saying, oh yeah, he was fucking shit today, wasn't he? Now, like when Carriers had that howler in the Champions League final, Klopp came out and said, no, he's a great lad, then replaced him. The point there is you can turn around and say you need to improve at this to their face, but you don't throw them under the bus in the bloody media. You don't need to go to the bloody press and say every week, oh yeah, I think the board are a bunch of pricks. Well, you can go and bloody tell the board X, Y, Z, can't you? And just say, oh yeah, we're going to work it out. Like, you need to put on some kind of calm demeanour and just take responsibility as the manager. And then if some player has colossally cocked up, you can go and say it to them, but don't do it in front of the whole fucking world. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's the wrong kind of management. It doesn't work. I think it's a dick thing to do anyway. But yeah, it's just, I don't like it. I just don't like it. Especially when Conte never accepts blame for himself either. It's always the club, He's not part of the club. He's separate from the club. Oh, the club are trying to do this. I'm here to improve the situation or whatever bollocks. It's, I don't, it doesn't seem like he gives a shit, does it?
Super Tottenham put this in the chat. There's no point sacking Conte if he wants to go into his contract up. That will look bad with the board again. Another manager they have to sack. The board has to take responsibility. I think the point for me here, and I'll come to you, Liz, for your view, is if we don't look like getting top four, we have to act. If we go to Southampton and it's another turgid, using your word, Gibbo performance, and we don't get a win, we have to act, don't we, to get top four? Top four is so important to us of have any chance of keeping Kane, any chance of continuing to progress. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, what you mean actually replacing him before?
Well, I just mean making the decision to say time's up. Is it about if the club don't believe that we're going to get top four this season under Conte, do we have to make a change?
Difficult one, because I like Conte. I think the club need a lot of what he's giving, and obviously we hear Conte should have Stellini doing the interviews. Basically, Conte says all the wrong things. I'm sure half of it's mistranslated in terms of how the people take it, because I read over and over and over again some of his interviews, and I think, that's what he meant. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't do that, and a lot of people just hear the stuff and they believe it. So a lot of it is the way he talks. It immediately makes you feel negative, that he doesn't care. And actually, I think quite the reverse, because he's obviously really tight with, well, maybe not all the players, but it seems like the team's quite tight. So I don't know. I wouldn't sack him before the end of the season. After the season, it depends. They seem to know whatever this surprise, this amazing thing is supposed to be, whether it exists or not, I don't know. But I always thought that he would probably go at the end of the season.
Would you pull the line? Would you pull the hook? Get it, let him go.
I don't think they will, mate. Until I think it'd have to get really toxic now. I think for that to happen, I thought if they wanted Poch back, I think they could have done that after the comments and the way things were. With the comments he made and that Conte made and like his demeanour and stuff. So I think if that's what they wanted to do, they could have done that. I think if it's mate, it'd have to get really toxic, because if you're just going to be stuck with Mason till the end of the season, I think you may as well. If Conte's look, even if we lose to Southampton, but Conte's gonna, he's happy to stay till the end of the season. You may as well, unless it gets really shit, you may as well keep him in there doing it than just get Mason in, because I don't think you're going to get any. You're going to get more from Conte in certain games than you would from Mason, mate. So I think unless the person you want is ready and is there and waiting to take over, then sort of like clear the air, say let's do this, let's get to the end of the season. Conte, give us your all, and then we can just both part ways amicably. Then I think that's the best option. But if they lose to Southampton, do I think he'll go? No, I don't, mate. I think it will have to get, for him to go in before the end of the season, I think it'll have to get pretty shitty. Like I've said before on here, mate, and I think Becky was on there, I think we'll win our home games, and I think we'll struggle away from home. Well, that's what I thought leading up to this. So we beat them comfortably. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we did beat Southampton, but I wouldn't be surprised if we pull out a stinker and don't beat them. Then we'll go. And then who have we got after that? Is it Brighton at home?
Yeah.
You put the things. Then we'll probably go and beat Brighton. It'll be a tough game, but we'll beat them. But then I wouldn't be surprised if we go Southampton away. Sorry, Everton at home, Everton away. I wouldn't be surprised if we go there and struggle to get a result because they're fighting for their lives. But then we'll come to Brighton, who are a decent team at home, and we'll beat them. And then we'll beat Bournemouth at home. And then obviously we got the big week, Newcastle, Man United and Liverpool. But yeah, I just think it's going to be like that till the end of the season. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, mate. Hopefully Conte and the club and the players have got their heads around it, mate, and they're going to push on till the end of the season, regardless of what's happening. And we'll really push to finish as high as we can in the league. That's what I hope. But
April's critical, isn't it? Newcastle away.
Yeah.
Man United at home, Liverpool away. But we've got it. The point is, though, it means nothing
if we don't before we're there.
Exactly, we've got to get the result, the points at Southampton, Everton, Brighton, Bournemouth before we get to that point. Because if we don't,
they're perfectly winnable fixtures. But like I keep saying before, we weren't great against Wolves. It's just they should be games that we are winning easily, and all that momentum that we lost from Chelsea and West Ham. Those then games that just followed is what made everybody feel really flat, because it was, there were opportunities to change, formation and personnel and that sort of thing. And it's very rigid. And if that doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I still remember now with Seb, stood next to Seb at Man United away, and we were horrendous. 3-0, wasn't it, I think? Yeah. And he just kept saying it's massively high risk. He goes, if it works, it's brilliant. If it doesn't, we get this. And it was like...
Yeah, I think the football is palatable if you win, Beck, and I think that's the way it is. That's how Conte ball works. If you win, you take it on the chin, but when it doesn't work, it looks absolutely dreadful.
And that may be down to the squad, and the squad isn't right for the way that he wants to play. I get that, and I get that we probably do need 3 windows to improve things. But if he's saying we need those 3 windows, then either commit to stay or tell us you're not going to, and then we know.
We don't know what's going to happen. It's a basket case, isn't it, Spurs? We could go in, you know what I mean? Well, you just do not know.
I'll ask you for a prediction as we come towards the end of the pod, which we're nearly there. But big news today. We all would have got our push notification come through saying club announcements, and probably if you was like me, thought, oh, hang on a minute, it's happened. Tried to get on the app. The app had obviously, because of the traffic, wasn't working. But the announcement was that Skinner was sacked as the Tottenham Hotspur women's manager after a really poor run. I think it's lost 9 or 10 games on the bounce, 9 on the bounce, yeah. And a manager arguably that has been backed, including the record signing in January for the women's game. Surprise for people on the panel tonight that happened, or was that inevitable after the loss at the weekend?
They're getting dangerously close to relegation, really, really close. Spurs have always been kind of like 5th or 6th, and not kind of anywhere near the top 4, but they are dangerously falling. And, like we've seen with Liverpool, who came up last year, Championship in the WSL is it's completely different, and the infrastructure that's there for Tottenham women, they need to be in the top league. So yeah, unfortunately, I've got a lot of time for Rianne, but I think she needed a change, a bit like we've just said, to salvage the season really for different reasons.
Yeah, definitely. It was a funny announcement when it come through. Was you all like me? Was I the only one that was like trying to get on? I didn't
see it. And then my friends tweeted a picture where it goes across the ticker tape at the bottom at Spurs, and it said Tottenham sack manager, and he took a photograph of that and then went, of the women's WSL Rianne Skinner. But the way they worded it as well, Tottenham tweeted, didn't they, saying she has been relieved of her duties.
Yeah,
that's a strange face.
Well. Yeah, very strange, very strange. Just a very quick mention at that point. Obviously, we have the podcast that goes out weekly. This week's Series 5 episode 43, All Is Not Forgiven, is currently available on the normal platforms. Franco, Pulmur, and Steve Diver on that today. So please do give that a listen to. Really good pod this week, and they talk everything. As a reaction of the game we've been discussing today. Before we sort of come to a close, just to let you know that Gibbo, James, you're back on Wednesday, aren't you, with Jack for the Wednesday night show?
I believe we are, yeah. Well, yeah. I assume I am. I don't think I've been told I am, but yeah, we usually do the Wednesday slot.
Yeah. I'm not available this Wednesday. I'm going to be in Disneyland, Paris, living my worst life.
I think we've had a little chat. I don't think there's going to be a lot of Spurs news. So we were just thinking about maybe doing a show about the dark horses for the Tottenham job. Names like Company, Gallardo, Brendan Rodgers, even to wind up some
De Zerbi.
Yeah, not the massive favourites, but ones we don't know a lot about, and I'll get James to do some homework on them and tell us what they could offer. But yeah, just something like that rather than talk about the same old thing.
Yeah,
you could talk about Paratici as well, couldn't you? About what's going on there, and what happens if he does end up not being allowed to stay on.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I know I can tell you now, it's Fonseca. You heard it here first. And then on Friday night, we got the Southampton preview show. So I know loads of people have been asking about our views on Southampton game. Obviously, you can tune in on Friday and hear all about that. And the last thing, just to close us out, prediction from all of you, yes or no, will Tottenham get the top 4 this season? Start top left, Becky.
Oh. When I've been asked this recently, I keep saying we'll get 5th. But results seem to keep falling in our lap. Yesterday, United drew with Southampton and Newcastle were lucky. They had that funny, dodgy VAR with Pape that Liz mentioned before. They won. Liverpool lost. There was a lot of draws this week, wasn't there? Brighton, Fulham, I seem to remember. We like I said earlier on, we capitalised from the results. And the last time we did that was Chelsea when we went 4th. I obviously want us to. I'm hopeful. It's just a lot of things we need luck. We need a lot of things to fall our way. We need the positivity and the belief and the momentum and all of those things. We need everyone to stay injury free. We need other teams to sort of slip up as well. I don't think we'll finish like 10th or anything. I think if we don't get it, we'll get 5th. But I'd like to hope that we will. Please.
Thanks,
Nothing
Becky.
else to play for.
And thank you for coming on today, Becky. As always, your positivity is infectious. Gibbo, top 4, yes, no?
I think we will actually, mate. I've just got a little feeling. I think obviously we're having a shit off with Liverpool at the minute, haven't we? So I think we'll just scrape it, mate. I think we'll
Gibbo,
scrape it.
I think we've changed places this last couple of weeks.
I'm not super, mate. I think I'm just a little bit realistic, mate. And I think we'll just do it. I think the one game a week will help us. And yeah, I've got a feeling.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on, Gibbo, and I look forward to watching you on Wednesday night from Paris. James, top 4?
That question makes me want to reach for the Johnny Walkers, but the flask is just there. But yeah, I think, like I said a while ago, I think we will. One game a week. I don't, Liverpool are a bit crap. I don't know. They can beat Man United 7-0, but they can't beat Bournemouth. I don't think United are all that really. Plus, I think, will go quite far in Europa League. So I do wonder, especially towards the end of the season, that will be draining on their league performance a little bit, perhaps. They might end up slipping up a little bit there. I think Newcastle will bottle it. So, yeah, I think we will get top 4. I think it won't be pretty, but I think we'll get it.
Excellent. And last but no means least, a strong debut performance from Liz. Final word, Liz, top 4, yes or no?
Absolutely, I'm positive. I'm always
That's
positive.
what we like.
Come on, you Spurs. I've been a supporter for 40 years. Yes, we can do it.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to go for top 4 as well. And just as a final point from me, full house, top 4. Super Tottenham, of course, I want us to be winning trophies again. We all want us to be winning trophies again. It's a no-brainer, that one.
Sorry, but what's that word? Trophy. What's that? I've never seen one of those.
No, that's being the young kid on the block. That is, you see.
It's frightening that young kids haven't seen a trophy.
I know.
I mean, I was alive when we lifted a trophy, but I can't say I recall it in very stunning detail because I was like 4. So
you got to claim it, mate. You got to claim it.
Yeah. Liz, you were amazing. First show ever doing anything like this. I know how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Because it came up on my Facebook on Friday. It was my year ago that I did my first ever show. And I know it's really tricky, but you've been amazing, and you need to come on more and more, Liz. Well done, super.
I really enjoyed
done,
it,
Liz.
actually. So, and I was a bit nervous, but I think I've got there now.
You should be used to getting nervous from watching Spurs.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, actually, I don't get nervous watching Spurs. Well, I get more annoyed. Well, I won't say pissed off. I get watching Spurs.
We will, Liz. It was a really strong debut, and we will have you back on very, very soon. That is certain. But
nice.
the last thing I guess to say is thank you to everyone listening. Like and subscribe, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on,
you Spurs.